Welcome back to part 2 of Elements of Gaming. And Mr. Ben is going to take over for me, so begin.
Yeah, I don't mind being called Master Ben. Anyway, let's just try and get rolling
sorry.
Not a problem. The only pony in the room whose eyes had opened wider than Fluttershy's was Twilight Sparkle. In fact, not only were her eyes as large as saucers, her jaw was hanging open as she watched the images of deep space appear on the screen. Nebulae, asteroid fields, and ringed gas giants faded on and off the screen in rapid succession. From what she knew about astronomy, there were a few technical details here and there that were slightly off, but technical details behooved. These images were beautiful.
Oh, it doesn't matter if they're wrong or not.
The orchestral score echoing grandly in the background slowly built up to a crescendo, and though it seemed physically impossible, Twilight's eyes grew even larger than saucers as the panoramic view of the gas giant slowly moved aside. Now visible was a bird's-eye view of a beautiful blue-green planet that resembled Equestria, yet with a few key differences. For one, Equestria didn't possess such a majestic northern aurora, and neither did it have such vast expanses of sea in between the land masses. Yet this much Twilight knew: whatever that planet was, it was obviously a central figure in the game they were going to play. Dimming briefly, the planet that they were gazing at was replaced on screen by yet another image, this time of a beautiful yet somehow gloomy scene. A mountain region riddled with green pastures, a darkened gray sky hanging over it as a light rain fell. Across the center of the screen, the words Halo Reach were hanging in a highly stylized font. As it was, the pony sat staring at the screen, waiting for something else to happen. Yet for several silent moments, nothing did. Are we supposed to do something? Applejack asked tentatively, obviously quite lost, but nonetheless still enraptured with what she was faced with. Well, isn't it kind of obvious, silly? Pinkie Pie said as though it were the plainest thing in the world. Her hoof pointed up to a line of text just below the title, words that were in a font so much smaller than the title that no pony else had managed to spot them. It says, "Start solo campaign." Huh? It does. Twilight looked closer and noticed with some embarrassment that yes, indeed, it did say that. To press start to begin in a tiny little line below the main title. Oh, I guess I kind of missed it. Rainbow Dash, you're the one with the controller right now, if you'd be so kind. The Sea and Pegasus gave an excited grin. My pleasure, Twilight. Lifting up the controller she held in her hooves, Rainbow Dash took a few seconds to locate the start button, but once she did, the image on the screen abruptly changed again as she depressed it, changing to another bird's eye view of the planet they had all seen just a few seconds ago. Overlaid over the image, however, were a series of words stacked on top of one another. Obviously a menu of some sorts, with the topmost word highlighted by a translucent white bar. Curious, Rainbow Dash gave the stick on the left of the controller. She held an experimental downward push, and the white bar moved downwards once, now highlighting the second word instead of the first. I think I'm getting the hang of this, the Pegasus exclaimed proudly with the wide beam, and she quickly scanned over each of the words on the menu once before setting on the topmost once again. Hey, Twilight, that manual say anything about how we can select these things? It's right there on the bottom of the screen, Dash, Fluttershy pointed out quietly as Dash squinted at the screen where her host friend was pointing, and then the blue Pegasus gave a slightly sheepish smile. It says press A to select.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, I knew that, Rainbow Dash said flippantly as she looked over at the menu of the selections once more. Let's see, campaign, matchmaking, firefight, options. I think I'll go with the campaign. Obviously the one placed on first on the menu is the most important. Can't say I disagree with that, Twilight said with a concurrent nod, while Applejack and Rarity simply shrugged and opted to watch their friend give her first video game her very first shot. Rainbow Dash gave the green A button on her controller a confident push, and then another menu came up, this time with only 4 words with the symbol of a shield and a knife next to it, and a brief paragraph of descriptive text. Rarity leaned closer and examined the words on the screen. Apparently it started out highlighting the second word, normal, while the one above it read easy, and below it was heroic, followed by legendary. Face firm resistance from the competent, determined enemies, but burn through enough ammo and you will eventually triumph, the white unicorn read off the screen, evidently some sort of descriptive text for normal. The top of the screen had a large label reading difficulty selection. Perhaps this was one where you selected how hard or easy you wanted the game to be, if the words she saw on the screen were any indication. Rainbow, could you be a dear and let us have a look at the other options? Rarity said sweetly, her eyes burning with curiosity from within. I'd like to see how they describe somebody who's heroic. I'm wondering myself, how does somebody describe somebody who's legendary without somehow referring to Princess Trelestia? Applejack wondered half-jokingly. Rainbow Dash complied, and the pony's eyes widened incredulously as they read the descriptions. Laugh as helpless victims flee in terror from their inevitable slaughter. The game basically plays itself, Twilight read off the screen, her eyebrow arching sardonically as she read the descriptor text for easy mode. The symbol on the screen changing to display only the shield, the knife disappearing from sight. Well, that doesn't sound too exciting. Or very noteworthy.
Nope.
Fight against formidable foes that will truly test your skills and wits. This is the way Halo is meant to be played. Sounds more to me like the way a hero ought to be, said Rarity, a slightly dreamy air to her voice.
Stupid slut.
As Rainbow Dash placed the selector over heroic mode, the single knife reappeared along with a second identical one, crossing themselves over the shield on the screen. Whoa there, Nelly Dash. I'm not liking that look on your face, Applejack said nervously as Rainbow Dash placed the selector over the final choice. The Rainbow Mane Pegasus had a fervent, almost maniacal grin on her face, obviously relishing the challenge she was being presented with. Over the two crossed knives and the shield on the screen, an unrecognizable alien skull had appeared to overshadow them, obviously to symbolize just how deadly the choice was, as though the descriptor text wasn't enough. Tremble has teeming hordes of invincible alien monsters punish the slightest error with instant death. Again and again, Rainbow Dash read off the screen in a single excited breath, her grin not fading at all. In fact, it only seemed to grow wider. Is that a challenge? If so, I'm taking it. There was only a small nervous beep from behind Pinky, as Fluttershy watched timidly from behind the pink Earth pony. The description of legendary mode sounded so scary, she couldn't imagine why Rainbow Dash would want to go through with it to begin with. Beep, beep. I don't know, Rainbow Dash, Twilight said uncertainly. That looks to me like the hardest difficulty setting the game has. And this is your very first try. You sure you don't want to pick something a little easier? Oh, please, proclaimed Rainbow Dash, laughing off Twilight's warnings and promptly proceeding to mash the A button. How bad could it be? You're forgetting I'm the coolest, fastest pony in all of Ponyville. I can handle a little game like this no matter what the difficulty. If you say so, Dash. Now, shall I keep going on, or does anyone else want to take over here?
No, keep going.
Okay. Oh, come on! I totally hit that guy like at least 1 billion times. Why didn't he die? Well, that one did get you good. I know, Twilight. Just let me try this again. Oh, you son of a... Youch! Nelly, that had to hurt something fierce. Oh, you don't say, AG. This is a lot harder than it looks. Oh, for Trollistia's sake, not again! Sure you don't want to try something a little easier? It's 2 years and you've barely made it halfway past the second stage. Oh, look out for that one. He's got a... Oh, never mind. You just died again. Pinky, I kind of realized that. Rainbow Dash ground up from behind clenched teeth as the game restarted itself from the last checkpoint, her in-avatar having just died to a diminutive enemy that had seen fit to suddenly charge her, brandishing 2 brightly glowing blue spears right before incinerating them both in a massive explosion. Hey, Dashy, said Pinkie Pie, tapping Rainbow Dash on the shoulder. You think I can give it a whirl? Groaned the Pegasus. Clearly fed up with loss after loss, the game dished out at her for what seemed to be at least the 100th time. Yeah, sure, why not? It's not as if anything's going to be different. With a loud and resounding yay! Pinkie Pie grabbed the controller out of Dash's hooves and started mashing away at the buttons, causing her character to leap all over the screen in a wild frenzy, shooting at absolutely nothing in particular and coming dangerously close to a few stray explosions. In what could only be described as an absolute utter miracle, Pinkie Pie's wild jumping spree prevented her from getting killed by any enemy fire whatsoever. At least up until the point she bounded off off a cliff to a rather quick demise. And a big outburst of laughter from Rainbow Dash. Oh, Trollistia, help me. I can't stop laughing, bellowed Rainbow Dash. We proceeded to burst into a resounding cry for the 18th time, practically rolling on the floor in stitches. Admittedly, Twilight was quite amused by Pinky's antics, but she had joined Rainbow Dash in her hysterics on the basement's wooden floor, even while Rarity had a hoof pressed to her mouth, desperately trying to hold in her laughter, even as her body shook with repressed guffaws. Ah, phooey, this ain't fun anymore, the pink Earth Pony pounded as she stuck her hoof out with the controller, obviously not wanting to play any longer. Some pony else give it a try. I want to see how you guys play. Well, I'm kind of curious how this thingamajig here works. Give her here, Pinkie Pie, Applejack stated, taking the pro-offered controller from her friend as she gave the device a brief once-over, trying to figure out which button did what. 5 minutes later, the orange Earth Pony was hurling curse words that most of them hadn't even known quite existed up to this point. From what every pony could tell over the din, she was quite stuck trying to get a large armored creature to turn around and reveal its weak spot. The fact that her enemy was repeatedly crushing her in-game avatar virtual skill with what appeared to be a large gray shield wasn't quite helping either. Oh, this consort son of a... keeps smashing his shield over my head every time I try to go around him. This lousy piece of... Zach yelled, vein throbbing furiously over her temple as her hoofs grabbing the controller shook with barely controlled rage. The rest of her friends were staring at her with wide eyes, Fluttershy and Twilight inching away slowly from the fuming Earth Pony. Rainbow Dash was holding in a mirthful chuckle, but her eyes betrayed the smug smile she was hiding. Told you it's harder than it looks, AJ. Oh, shut your yap, Rainbow, said the ranging pony, nearly screaming. I know how to to the moon with this! Applejack took the for lack of progress, angrily shoved the controller into Twilight's hooves. The hell with this, Twi, I give up. You give it a try. You're the one Princess Trelestia gave it to anyway. Wow, jeez, Applejack, said Twilight, giving her friend an amused smile before relieving Applejack of the burden. You really gotta relax there, it's just a game. The sardonic glance that AJ gave her quite frankly said otherwise, but Twilight simply shrugged sagely and calmly set about trying to overcome the giant milk that Applejack struck so. Aha, I knew I was missing something, the lavender unicorn proclaimed proudly as she ran right past it and instead of engaging it directly, and was rewarded with the sight of a much, much bigger gun than the one she was holding right now. Twilight quickly picked the gun up and spun her character around, placing the giant enemy right in her sights. Gotcha, she snickered playfully in a manner that was reminiscent of a certain monarch, and pulled the trigger on her controller. The resulting fireball-like object that spat out of her new gun's barrel streaked forward like a missile, blasting forward and slamming right into the giant mook's face. The resulting detonation yielded a massive conflagration that had every pony in the room either wincing in mock pain or going whoa in awe. When the smoke cleared, the armored creature was laying in a crumpled heap on the ground, obviously dead. And that, girls, is how you do it. Twilight stated with a satisfied air.
That's how Equestria was made.
Twilight stated with a satisfied air, much to AJ's chagrin. She certainly hadn't considered trying that, distracted as she was with her stubborn attempts to overcome the large armored creature with only what she had. The rest of the level progressed fairly well. Twilight would always approach every situation she came across slowly, thoroughly analyzing it before moving in for the kill. Soon enough, it became clear that there was an obvious pattern to every battle she approached. The Lavender Unicorn was obviously following some sort of carefully calculated procedure devised by watching her friends play through the game. It was all well and good until she reached what seemed to be the end of the level. Her in-game avatar was advancing up a series of floors alongside its compatriots when all of a sudden a barrage of green energy blasts streaked out of nowhere and completely vaporized her and its allies right where they stood. What in the princess's name just happened? Twilight gaped, staring numbly at the screen. Or rather, should I repeat? What in the troll's name just happened?
Yes.
Her jaw hanging open for just a brief moment before she shook her head back into focus. No, there's got to be a strategy for this one here. There must be something different I missed. Yet, much to her gathered friends' endless amusement, it seemed that whatever the purple unicorn tried was doomed to failure. Even the slightest movement out of cover was instantly punished with a barrage of green energy blasts from whatever was aiming at her. They came so fast and so furiously that Twilight didn't even have any time to even look at what was shooting at her. What is this? Hissed the lavender unicorn from between clenched teeth, her jaw clenching as her heart rate began to quicken, her eyes narrowing in frustration. How am I even supposed to formulate a strategy if I don't know who my enemy is? As the deaths began to rack up alongside Twilight's failed attempts, she began to grow more and more frustrated at her apparent lack of ability to get around whatever was in her way. "This is impossible," said Twilight, her mouth half strangled by her own growing rage. As her left eye began to madly twitch, her mane came to life with white-hot flames of anger and furious mad rage. "I did everything right! I'd rather fight Nightmare Moon for 1,000 years than deal with this..."